Good evening. This is Rudy Giuliani with America's Mayor Live, and on a very interesting night. Last night we were at Mar-a-Lago and watched a very interesting movie about uh, President Trump and about his family, and a very different take on President Trump. Basically his relationship with his family, and many things you probably don't know, and many things that I do know from having been his friend for 39 years, but also things that I didn't know because they were deeply personal. And I was glad they did this movie, Ted, because uh, I have dual feelings as his friend. I feel very bad that he is portrayed this way because it's so different than the guy that I know. And I think that gets through, and I think it's getting through. His favorability ratings with all the unbelievable stuff they're doing and saying, and we'll get to, I think, probably the American political campaigning has reached a new low or a new level of attack and dangerousness. There was a time they'd attack your positions, and a time they'd attack your record, then attack you personally. And there was a period of time, with particularly when there were Democrats being protected, like Roosevelt, who was well known to have had mistresses, and John Kennedy, who apparently, and the press would never publish that. In fact, the press never would let you see that Roosevelt was crippled. And now, could it be even the left wing bias of the press goes back that far? I don't know. Uh, and that was probably excessive in the sense of not allowing the public the right to know things they should know. And then I think it really was somewhere in the break probably came with Watergate when they decided to go into personal lives and then to intrude into personal lives so much that it became almost to the point of like insanity. Um, and then the politicians began the practice of oppo research. But with Donald Trump, they've gone absolutely out of their minds. And they have demonstrated that there is nothing they will do, or that they won't do, to stop him. I mean, to indict him 4 times in 1 year in what would be in a country that wasn't dominated by a captured, crooked, distorted, communist-oriented press, which would be clearly an act of massive election interference. I mean, he's indicted 4 times so that he can't become president, not because he committed it. I don't even know what the hell the crimes are. And I'm in it. I'm indicted twice for being his lawyer. Never thought my whole life that I get indicted for being his lawyer. His people are trying to take. They're trying to take away from me my ability to eat, drive a car, and it's his people. The case is being handled by. They never report this. Hunter Biden's prior partner, a guy who represented the crooked company that I revealed, that paid all those bribes to the Bidens, Burisma. He's the guy behind it. The case for these so-called poor women is being handled by one of the richest firms in the world, who are very close to the Bidens. And it's the reason they can harass you the way they do and drive you into bankruptcy, because they treat it like it's a massive antitrust case. And then they end up with judges who, for example, the judge who found me liable without giving me a trial was unhappy that the January 6th people didn't get enough time. I mean, she's really bloodthirsty. She was bloodthirsty for me. She was dying to put me in jail for contempt, which is why my lawyer won't let me testify. So I couldn't defend myself. She didn't find me guilty based on a trial of She found me guilty because she didn't think I gave over enough discovery. I never heard of that before. And now they're going before a judge who, who wants to take away. He wants to take away the jersey of Joe DiMaggio. Well, you say, okay, well, you probably bought it at some auction. No, I didn't. I got to know Joe DiMaggio when he was the Grand Marshal of the Columbus Parade. I believe I had been the Grand Marshal the year before that. I was sitting outside in the Columbus Club, and he was inside having lunch, and he sent someone out, and he said, Mr. DiMaggio, I'd like to have lunch with you. And I said, oh, isn't that wonderful? Could I take my uncle with me? Because my uncle, Rudy, New York City police officer, a hero in the Navy, a hero in the police department, 3 times took people down from the top of the Brooklyn Bridge. My hero. And he knew Joe DiMaggio better than I did because he was in his era more. And I was actually told they'd have to check because Joe is very shy and careful. And he came back and I said, exactly what does Joe DiMaggio want me? He said, well, you're his hero. And I almost think I fainted. I was his hero. I said, could you tell me why? He said, well, he'll tell you why. Because of what you did. You did more for the Italian people than anybody, he said. He's always hated the mafia. And there's nobody that's done more damage to the mafia or taken more risk for it. I said, wow. I went in. We had a wonderful meeting. And then every time he would come to town, I would be invited to meet with him either at Dr. Positano's office, who is the greatest foot doctor in the history of the world. I walk on Dr. Positano every day. I walk on devices that he's made for my plantar fasciitis and has kept me free of it for 22 years. Or I'd be invited by George Steinbrenner to stay with him and sit in Yankee Stadium when he was here for a game. And this went on until he died, and we became good friends. And he left me a jersey from the last year that he played, signed by him. They want it. I'm going to take it from me. They want to take from me a knife and one of those head things that the Islamic terrorists put around the head that they seized from one of the first guys they killed in Afghanistan, because when they came back, they said we couldn't think of anybody else better to give it to because of the courage you displayed on September 11 and the courage your city had. I said, well, I'm going to accept it. I'm going to accept it for all the heroes whose shoulders I stood on. They want it. They're trying to take my Yankee rings from my sons. I'd like you to know I paid for my Yankee rings. George, my good friend George, wanted to give them to me. And I said, George, you can't do that. I went out, figured out how much the players pay for a replacement ring, and I made out a check when I could. I didn't take them while I was mayor. I didn't even know he was getting them when I was mayor. He offered me one the first year I was mayor. I turned it down. He was then kind enough and nice enough to make up 3 more every time the Yankees won. He held them. And after I left office, he had a dinner for me, a lunch for me, and he gave me the rings. And I said, George, this is one of the nicest things that you did this. But I have to tell you, I'm going to pay you for them. And he said, well, you can't really, the players don't pay for them and you can't pay for them and you're not mayor anymore. I said, I'm going to tell you, George, he'll try to make something of this. So I did. I paid him. It was about 24,000. They got increasingly more expensive depending on, because they went from this big to this big to this big to that big. I mean, the last ring, I don't know how I could even, would have a hard time moving my hand. And then I ran for president, and they attacked me, and they said that George gave me all kinds of things because he wanted a Yankee Stadium, and that I did it as a bribe. Now they couldn't accept the fact, like they can't. I'm an honest man, and I'm proud of that. I go out of my way to try to figure out what the rules are so they don't break them, even the technical rules. And when I do, I'll file an amended this or an amended that or whatever. So they said, "Oh, he got those I'm going to take a bribe to build a I don't know $2 billion stadium. Take 4 rings to build a $2 billion stadium." Well, I'm not a crook, but if I was, I think I'd take a lot more than that to build a $2 billion stadium, right? So I said, "Well, ha ha, jerkos. I got my records here, and my personal assistant, Beth Patron, is the best personal assistant anyone has ever had in the history of the world. She kept a record of it. She laid out all the records, every single ring. I bought them at different times because one was missing for a while. They couldn't find it. So I paid for 3 of them, then I paid for one. And I had the company charge me exactly what the replacement value. In other words, if a player had a ring like this and they lost it, they actually have to pay for the new ring. So I paid the replacement value. I laid it all out. Press was really satisfied, except one really miserable piece of crap reporter who said, "Well, we went and checked. And do you know the ring that you paid $6,000 for? You know what they say it's really worth because it's your ring?" I said, "I have no idea. It's really worth 20 grand because somehow you're a big celebrity." I said, "Well, that's really interesting." In other words, when I bought these rings, I should have figured out if they're worth more as my ring than somebody else. Well, I'll tell you what, you see, I got a suit on here. I paid about $600 for this suit. Well, I bet if I sold it as my suit, I'll probably get about 3 grand for it, right? Would you say that's right? Because it's my suit. I put my signature on. So from now on, when I go to to buy a suit, I'll say, okay, the suit's for $400, but charge me 2,000. Or maybe if I buy food, maybe a milk is more because I'm a celebrity. So I should say, well, I should pay 3 times for my milk. I said, don't you know you jackasses really don't know what you're talking about? Here's the way it works, so that nobody gets away with anything. So let's say I bought the ring for 6 grand. And let's say someday I want to sell it because Democrat politicians are coming after me unfairly, getting me found liable without trials. And it's all being orchestrated by the crooked president of the United States and the lawyers who go ahead and do things for free for him in order to stop people from going after him, which is exactly what the case is all about. And the judges either are complicit or they sure as hell treat Democrats different than Republicans. But let's say I sold it. Let's say I sold the $6,000 ring because it's my ring for 26,000. Don't you know that I'd have to pay a capital gain of 20 grand on it? Because then it would have turned into not just something personal, it would have turned into something where I traded and made money on it. Why should I pay more for something than somebody else would if I'm not going to turn that into? It's not a business transaction, which is what the law is. But they don't care about the law. They distort the law to destroy Republicans. And it's a tragedy. And until we fix that, we're not going to have an America. That's what my case is about. $154 million judgment. And the judge really thinks that's serious. Come on, there isn't a person in America that doesn't know that that judgment is wild. It's crazy. It comes from a District of Columbia jury that would would convict anyone of anything if you said they were connected to Trump. And it's not connected to any economic reality. They didn't show any damages. They didn't show any bills or records or anything like that. They didn't let me testify. Otherwise, I'd have been held in contempt if I told what I believe is the truth. I'm not allowed even now to tell you what I think the truth is, I think, because this isn't America anymore. This is the Biden-Harris regime with their appointees and those allied with their appointees all over the bench, not acting like judges. You think the people in the Trump case acted like judges? You think Moran acted like a judge? You think Marchand, whose daughter just made a $500,000 from the campaign, from the Biden-Harris campaign, not covered? And did you see that in the papers? She got $500,000. The daughter of Marchand, who framed Trump. I think he took a less than unanimous verdict. That's the first guy since some poor guy in Richard III's England got convicted without an unanimous verdict. But then they overturned it. Well, we'll be back.
We got a special guest tonight.
Is she ready?
She is ready. So we'll take our quick break and come back with the one and only.
Oh, my goodness.
Bianca de la Garza. We're excited. She got a new book. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
And the name of the book.
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50%, and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans. No Robusto, all Arabica. They're gonna go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
This is Rudy Giuliani. And we're back, and we have with us Bianca de la Garza, one of the really great news anchors and journalists on Newsmax.
Hi,
she
Mayor.
seems to be on all day now.
And all night now with you. I need some of that Rudy's coffee.
Yeah, I know.
Come on.
I mean, there have been times recently with what's going on that you're really. You kind of like Trump.
I am an Energizer bunny. That is for sure. Well, these are historic times, as you know. We can't stop. We have to get the information out. We have to get the truth out. This is where we're at. The critical time for our nation. It really feels like this is something we haven't seen before, Mayor, and we've seen a lot.
Is it? We haven't seen anything like this before. It does make us all, I think, somewhat embarrassed when we say it's the most important election, because it has been said before, and but this time it's beyond. I mean, it's, my goodness.
Yeah, Elon called it the other day. The fate of our civilization depends on this.
Yeah, and it's right. And on the front lines is right at the time that we need it. This is a great service and a great time to write this book, Bianca. Thank you. Tell us a little about it.
Yeah, I mean, it just dropped. We're already #2 on Amazon, so the response has been incredible. And I
didn't get that.
We're number 2 on Amazon. It just dropped, and
Oh, come on, let's go to 1. Buy
yeah,
the book.
that's what I'm saying. And your viewers, and thank you for having me on tonight to discuss this, because in addition to the coverage we're doing at Newsmax, it's important that we are everywhere to inform people of really the peril that this administration has put us in, to the point where the information war, being on the front lines of it as I have been the past few months, has been so ugly, so fraught with. I didn't think when I started to write the book, Mayor, that I'd have, a coup, 2 assassination attempts, 4 indictments,
Oh, sure.
all of this. I didn't think, what I wrote about is basically the real-time events as it was coming in on my broadcast, as I'm in the anchor chair. I was doing my job, but those air quote legacy media journalists are out there really fighting against the American people, blocking information, blocking the truth, manipulating the information. And it is it's all coming to light, though. You see it, don't you? People have woken up.
I think so. I almost am afraid. So if this were a normal election,
Yeah.
going back, let's say 10 years, a more neutral period, I would say it's all coming together. She is she's suffering from something that is real, which is the more exposure to her, the more you don't like her. There are politicians like that. The more they campaign, the less votes they get. And she is that. Think about the primary, right? Wow, boom. And he's just, he's more popular than he's ever been.
I loved
But
McDonald's.
I just worried.
Well, I don't want to have a spirit of fear. I hear you, but her personality, nobody likes her. You're right. The more she keeps opening her mouth, they put her out there. It's like, I don't really like this person. I don't trust her. I don't want her with the nuclear codes. God forbid she has to sit down with an adversary. But he's coming through. And obviously, the media has done a hell of a job to suppress the goodness that he has on him. And you've been seeing it being in New York for so many years. And, I know what the media can do when they want to create a narrative, but now through some of the, you can't filter it when you have Elon running X. These videos that people see, they see it, they real and unfiltered. And I love that. I loved the McDonald's moment, and I loved how they reacted, because you don't react to that unless you know. We cannot top this. It was authentic. It was genuine. He's a man of the people, and he cares, and he really cares. And in my book, I write about the cheap fake. I write about how Karine Jean-Pierre was using the word cheap fake, and this sort of machine. And I don't know, Mayor, maybe you agree, because it was so truncated this time. They said Joe Biden was great. Then they kick him out. They put her in, and they're now saying, no, she's great. Because of that time period, it was so truncated. I think it really gave people who maybe were doubtful or still kind of having a shred of hope to think that they were like getting real news over there. I think it blew it all up.
She went in, I don't remember, the 2 days, 3 days, from being the most unpopular vice president in the history of the country, which even the left-wing media, until they started to sense that she might replace him, would very freely say she lost 90% of her staff. I never heard of that before. Like, anybody who worked for her quit.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, she becomes, the second coming of Elizabeth II. But then she can't hold it.
No.
She can't sustain it. I think one of their biggest mistakes was her little tour to her friendly journalists, because she says stupid things.
Stupid. She's sitting there with Liz Cheney talking about democracy, and Liz Cheney is, in a town hall where no one's allowed to ask any questions. That's stupid too. The optics of that is, I don't know. They didn't think that through, because someone stood up and said, can we ask some questions? And Maria Shriver is like, unfortunately, no. It's also staged. I remember I write about my book. So I got into journalism, and my first job was in New York, in Albany. George Pataki was governor. Betsy McCoy, lieutenant governor. And I saw, look, the ugly side of politics and different things, the horse trading that goes on, right? And it's New York politics are like none other. And, when Hillary Clinton came in, she was coronated too.
Right.
That listening
I remember.
it was just given to her.
I
and
remember.
I think, it's sort of like Kamala thought she would waltz in here. She's fallen her way up, slept her way to some really big gigs, with Willie Brown, and, really hasn't, achieved anything on her own. And it's not working out so good, is it? And the black vote, I love the black. I can't wait to see, also Madison Square Garden this weekend.
Yeah, I'll be there. I'm going to give a speech.
Amazing. That'll be a
trying
highlight.
to figure out what to say. There's so much to say. And I remember the 2004 Republican convention. I gave the keynote speech there when Bush was renominated. It's going to be quite a thing. And here, I mean, people say, well, why is he doing it in New York? He's doing it for the country. He's showing I'm the president of all the people. I can go everywhere. She has to go to predetermined places that are very carefully. But Bianca, today I was very disturbed by what she said about Hitler and about Trump. And they're not saying it in a vacuum. They're saying it in a situation in which there have been 2 serious attempts on his life. Yeah. And if they don't realize, they love this word, dog whistles, that these are dog whistles to kill him. Then they really are stupid.
Yeah, I agree. Just one thing about Madison Square, why shouldn't he be in New York? Look at everything he did for New York. He was New York. Before he got into politics, he was beloved. There's video of him, there's video of him cleaning toilets too, when people are like, oh, McDonald's, he put on a costume. No, this guy is done. He came into the hotel and he knows he was always in on the joke. He was always affable, and he built so much for New York. This is a city that reveres him, whether or not, those people are sitting in jury boxes, remains to be seen. But there is a huge electorate. And to your point about the rhetoric, I'm very concerned about that. I also did not like to see Joe Biden last night, who says we have to put him behind bars. He's in New Hampshire talking about this. And, he's saying, oh, lock him up politically. These people, they're not messing around, and we can't, the early voting numbers are really positive, but these people are out for literally, this, their very existence, which ceases if Donald Trump gets in the White House. So yeah, they're going to say he's like Hitler. They're going to say this, and then stories that are just bogus. Anytime you hear 2 words, anonymous sources, forget it.
Yeah,
and
of course.
That's part of why, outlets, like Newsmax is, surging, because people.
Thank God.
Thank God.
We can have free speech at all. There are a couple of organized operations, and then a large number of podcasts, and that makes a difference, actually. In 2020, when Bannon and I were going around trying to get the hard drive out, and we couldn't get on anywhere, we did it through local news. We did about 300 local news shows in 3 weeks, Bannon and I, and we hit 50% of the American people, but not the number we had to. Had the rest known about it, he never would have been president.
I know. And that's so true. And then it's like, so they got away with it last time. The publisher of my book, Incoming, Post Hill, published The Laptop from Hell. Same publisher. So they support, these works. This is very important that conservative work is not censored. And I'm really excited for not just Madison Square Garden, which I cannot wait to hear when you speak. Someone on the chat was asking what time, so you may want to tell your fans. But Trump's also going on Joe Rogan.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. How many people does Rogan get? Ridiculous, right? 20 million or something?
Tens of millions. The Twitter space, remember, it froze that night. So he has Rogan. Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. Rogan at one time, wasn't really a supporter. So I think, Rogan's over on
Returned.
Elon, Tulsi's now joining the Republican Party. I mean, look at this
That was
wide
nice.
over like RFK. It's really
It's amazing. I don't mean to. Sorry, Bianca. I don't mean to interrupt.
Ted, good.
So I want our audience, while we continue this interview with Bianca, take out your smartphone. We have her book and a QR code up on the screen. So I want to keep the interview going. Most of you know Bianca. If you don't and you love what you're hearing, be sure to take out your smartphone right now. I'm new to this too, by the way. A lot of our audience has probably never done this. Bianca's showing you right now how to do it.
Let me do it.
Hold it up. So there's Bianca holding up her smartphone. Click on that. It's the QR code that it's the bottom right hand of our screen. So as we continue the interview, I'm going to keep that QR code up there. And we want our audience.
I know, but Ted, that's great. And then I just hit it and it goes right to the page.
Exactly.
And I'm a big shopper. So this is dangerous too when you have.
So I don't mean so keep the conversation going. And I want folks to know so they can click on that link.
No, it's great because you're kind of wondering why it's up.
I'm going to get it as a book so you can sign it for me, but I have to get it on Kindle because I have to underline it. I get all my books on Kindle because I like underlining it.
Yeah,
and then I have a summary of the book.
I like Kindle too sometimes. And you can read it outside. It's sometimes easier on your eyes to read it off a Kindle screen sometimes.
Well, Bianca, we watch you every day. You give us lots of hints for our show.
Thank you,
you just do a great job. And so
you know how
needed
much
right
I adore you. You are a national treasure.
And the network is a warrior for free speech. And boy, do we need that. Thank you. And good luck with this.
Thank you, Mayor.
You got to read this before the election. Necessary reading. Okay?
It's an eye-opener and a page turner. Thank you so much. Yes. God bless you, Mayor, for everything you do. And thanks, Ted, behind the scenes.
Dear. Yeah.
Thanks, Bianca. You're the best.
I'm glad he did that. I'm going to press this thing now. Can I press it?
Yes, you can. Give that a click. And
is that it?
That's it.
What did I do? Did I just order it?
And you got to click.
No, it's not that. It's not that. Yeah. No, you do have to go through a process.
Our next QR code is gonna automatically bill you and send you a book.
I'm gonna do it on the air and show them. Okay.
Thank you, Bianca. Right. Love watching you.
Thank you, Bianca.
Thank you. God bless you all. We're gonna save this country, this great nation.
Yeah, that could be a great day.
Oh, Bianca is the best,
isn't she? Yeah. Well, I'm gonna tell you. So now let's go through this here. Now, normally the way I would get a book is I go on Amazon, and I would, depending on the book, a book like this, I'll get the hard copy, so she can sign it. But I'll also get the Kindle version, which will be where I read it, so I can underline it, and then I store all the underlinings, and I have maybe a 4 or 5 page summary of the things about the books. And I did this before I was on the air. I did it when I first started with Kindle, which was about 2015 or so, 14, 15. No, much older than that. 2010. And I've had a lot of different Kindles. Here I am, Rudy Giuliani, and I'm going to try to order it. Ted has not been able to get because we're having trouble with the internet, my cell phone, but I'll do it on my. I'll do it on.
Oh, you put down the QR code. I want people to do it alongside at home.
Oh,
Yeah, I'll put it back on the other one here.
well, let's not make it too complicated.
Oh, yeah. I just had a scoop image up. Bring it up for you to do. I'll show them how to do it.
It's not my cell phone.
No, but it'll take you there.
But you're not buying me a book.
No.
Okay. Now, what would you like me to do?
Have a camera here. I want to do it alongside everybody at home. I guess share screen. Yeah, you can buy it on there if you want.
All right, let's go. Come on.
All right. So aim the camera.
Yeah.
At that.
Okay.
Cool. Follow along at home, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay. I'm aiming the camera. I aim the camera at it. Now what do I do?
Does it now? If you aim it at the QR code, does it auto-populate? Does something come up?
It just says 1, 2. It just went off.
The phone did. Okay.
Yeah, I think this is taking too long, and we have a lot to cover. So let's figure it out for the end, okay? And if you would give me my own cell phone, I would know how to do it myself. But then try to find it. So this is what I want to show you right now. If we could put the, if we could just put the camera on it. Okay. Now that is a picture of Donald Trump praying with mostly Hispanic supporters. This was yesterday in Florida, my new home state, and they are praying for support because, like you, like me, like Bianca, like Ted, like Dr. Maria, we believe that this election is the most important that we have ever faced. And they are asking, as they should, if you have that belief, they're asking for divine guidance. They're asking God to help. I think that's so good because I think part of what the president has to do, the new president has to do, and it really isn't a president's role. On the other hand, he can accommodate it and make it easier. I don't know exactly how you say this, nor do I know exactly how you do it, but he's got to bring God back in to America. I wanted to say to those of you who don't believe in God, and I hope if you don't believe in God, you're doubters as opposed to atheists, because I get impatient with atheists because you're arrogant. You don't know that there's not a God. And I don't actually know that there is a God. The big distinction here, I believe that there is a God. I'm not gonna say to you that I can prove to you the existence of God in the same way that I can prove to you, we're getting very Socratic now, but I can prove to you the existence of this pencil. What I can do is, first of all, I can prove to you that there is no proof that there is no God. None. Because when we go back as far as you want to the beginning of time, we just don't know how time started or how matter formed, and if there was spontaneous combustion happens because of a physical process involving matter that exists. So who put the matter there for the spontaneous corruption? Eruption. I mean, who combustion? Who combustion, eruption, corruption? Who did it? Or did somebody do it? And how does intellect and mind and thought enter into matter? Here's the pencil, right? Now, I think we all can agree that scientifically, even without Dr. Fauci's help, this is matter. This doesn't think, right? Now, there may be a few of you who think it thinks. For all I know, it could even be a gender nowadays. This could be a pencil, could be a gender. I mean, they have they have facilities for cats in schools in case a kid thinks they're a cat. Geez, I didn't think you'd do that in a school. I thought you would do that in kind of an institution, but okay. But this doesn't think. It's matter. It's pure matter, right? This thinks. How did that happen? How did that, first of all, how did the matter get here in the first place? And then how did the matter, not all of it, but a very small amount of it, turn out to think? Or even before we say think, become alive. And is alive and thinking the same thing? Because although animals don't think in the complex way in which we do, animals do react. Now, is that just a nervous system reaction? Or is there an intellect attached to that? Well, these are all extraordinarily difficult and very good questions that need to be asked. And they do not get you to definitive answers. So it's the height of arrogance to be an atheist. And that is exactly what Karl Marx was. And Karl Marx actually was a Satanist. Karl Marx believed that he was like Satan, that Satan broke from God because he was not going to accept the fact that God was the supreme intellect as well as the supreme being, that his intellect was bigger. And the whole destruction of communism and socialism, and when a person like Tampon Tim says one man's socialism is another man's neighborliness, you see there are only one or two things that comes from. It comes from profound ignorance about socialism. Where socialism is just from a philosophical point of view, a self-defeating philosophy, because it completely crashes as it runs into human nature. And then that crash always ends up in violence. And we've had, 26, let's call them experiments, and they've all ended in violence. And that doesn't happen with neighborliness, doesn't end up in violence, Tampon Tim. So I conclude that Tampon Tim is not a fool. I conclude he's a guy that was trained to be a groomer by the Chinese communists when they brought him over there 30 years ago, and under a Harvard program that to a large extent was manipulated to create groomers. And they are otherwise known as union teachers, and which is why we have all these crazy Marxists running around. Tampon Tim is not just an isolated, sad situation of a misguided communist. He's a guy that, I don't know how many of our kids he perverted. How many did he bring over there, Ted? I don't know. There's a dispute as to whether he went there 30 times or 17 times. And
Whoa.
I don't know. I don't know how they could. That's a big dispute.
Yeah.
Now, it could be, I have a feeling that it might have been 17 times.
By the way, both numbers are suspicious.
17 doesn't make any difference here. Look, if you get there 3-4 times and they keep inviting you back, you're a communist, okay? You have to cut out the bullshit. They invite you back.
And you go.
They're using you effectively. And in his case, there's only one reason they were using him, and that is to brainwash kids. And he was bringing over large numbers of them, and they were paying him money for it. And he had 2 businesses. This is so ridiculous that we have him on this ticket. It only proves that the Democrat Party has been taken over by the communists, which they've been trying to do since Woodrow Wilson, and at various times have had undue influence on the Democratic Party. When we truly write the history of the 20th century, we're going to find out how the Communist Party infiltrated both the Wilson and the Roosevelt administrations, and the infiltration of the Roosevelt administration cost the lives of and the freedom of millions and millions and millions of people. I would maintain that without the influence of communists around a deteriorating and Biden-like Roosevelt, Poland would never have been a country that was tortured and kept in subjugation and denied religious freedom. It would have been a country that would have been liberated by Patton, and was only held back because a communist-influenced Roosevelt promised it to Joe Stalin for his participation in the war against the advice of a much brighter man, smarter man, wise man, not as influenced at all by communists, Winston Churchill, who basically said, Franklin, he really is an Uncle Joe. First of all, he didn't come in here, freely and willingly. We have him because Hitler kicked him out. We don't have him because he wants to be with us. So all during the time that we played footsie with him and nice with him, I mean, he was lying to you. You damn well better have been lying to him or you're going to jeopardize your people. Well, like Biden, for reasons that only God could explain to me, or maybe Satan, I don't know. Like Biden gives money to the biggest sponsor of terrorism, and like Obama gave them cash, he treated Joe like he was a real ally, and he gave away the lives of lots of people certainly in Poland and then Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, Hungary. Maybe we couldn't have liberated Ukraine. The real question as to what would have happened in Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia. But not a real question as to what would have happened in the further out countries that technically were never a part of the Soviet Union. When you get to the Lithuanian border, you're really at the outer extreme of what the Soviets claimed. Really, when you get to Ukraine, you're at the outer extreme of what the Russian Empire, the Tsar, claimed. These are all things that you need to know to understand what's going on. These are all things, and I know you're going to find maybe my saying, these are all things that Kamala Harris doesn't know, nor does Joe Biden. Before Joe Biden became demented, he was exceedingly dumb, really dumb. Secretary Gates, who was in the Obama administration with him, didn't say for no reason that in his entire career, Joe Biden never made a correct decision about foreign policy. He said it to warn us, and we didn't take the warning. And here we are. We got a chance to fix it now. Maybe our last chance. I don't think I'm being overly dramatic. I generally am not. I'm not a drama queen. So let's do some election talk. We know we're getting right near an election, so it's time to do some election talk. I got a couple of polls, and you got a couple of polls, and we're going to tomorrow night we're going to go into even more detail with it. I think if all things work out, we're going to have with us Mr. Rollins. Now, Rollins,
yes.
Rollins, I know he and I go back, and he, of course, was a much bigger deal on the political side of the Reagan administration. But this Ed is And there aren't too many like Ed left that really understand politics, the full scope of politics, which means foreign affairs, domestic affairs, polling, individual states, the trade-off between the electoral vote and the popular vote. So Rollins will be on with us, and that'll prepare us for Friday night, which we're getting close now, where we'll do another electoral, real deep analysis, and we'll have a couple of experts with us to help with that too, and we'll get Ed's view, in advance, so that we can factor his in, so that we can see now with 2.5 weeks to go where the heck we stand, and with early voting taking place. Lots of speculation on early voting. Lots of speculation. The good thing is, whatever the actual percentages, there's no doubt there's more Republican participation this time. It may be really significant. It may be somewhat balancing, but it will, whatever. We're going to be in better position going into Election Day this time than the last time so far. But let's keep it up. Please do what I tell you. While you're listening right now, and you can do two things at once because you're smart. You wouldn't be listening to the show if you weren't smart. Here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to take out a piece of paper, and I'd like you to write down 10 people, friends, relatives, that you're going to encourage to vote now, if they can. I don't want them to vote now if they can't. Encourage them to vote now at the early voting place, and tell them why you're doing it, so that they can help 10 people to vote on Election Day and be free to do it. And if you're one of these really nice social people that really gets along with me, lots of friends, do 20. And then call up your local Republican club or Turning Point or one of the other groups. Maybe tomorrow we'll get you a whole bunch of numbers that you can call. I mean, they need people. They need people who'll give them 3 hours, 4 hours, 2 hours, an hour, a weekend. There are plenty of things to do. I mean, meaning getting out the vote. It's really important. I mean, the Democrats pay for it, and the Democrats commandeer it through the unions, and they pay for it. So we've got to match that. I was impressed on the weekend. Ted and Dr. Maria and I went to Georgia. We went to a place right outside of Atlanta, which we know is, one of the big swing states. We were enormously impressed with the large numbers of volunteers they had, and what appeared to be an extraordinarily well-organized effort. Republicans, there's a certain degree of criticism of Republicans because it's said that they've come up with a new theory, which is to get the low propensity voter, meaning the voter that doesn't vote in every election, but to try to identify the low propensity voter who might be inclined to vote for Trump. I think some of this comes from a survey that was done of evangelicals who, where it turned out that something like 85 to 90% of them were favorable toward Trump, but only 40% were going to turn out to vote. So the thought was there are a lot of people like that. Now, some of the older, more traditional Republican experts and Democratic experts criticized them, but because the accepted wisdom is we're not quite there yet, but we're almost getting to the point where you would concentrate just on the people you have isolated as people who are going to vote and people who are going to vote Trump. We got no more time you got to get your numbers out. And there's some wisdom to that because I think we would both agree that in this election, there are conceivably enough voters in every one of these swing states for either person to win. When you're talking even about a Trump lead of, let's say, 48-42, you change turnout, and Harris could steal that. I don't mean steal it before we even get to stealing it. I mean, she could win it with turnout. Uh, our elections in the swing states are so close, either the candidate has enough votes to win. The question is a combination of enthusiasm for the candidate and manufactured enthusiasm or assisted enthusiasm with the poll watcher calling up or offering the ride to the polling place or offering the ride to the early voting place. That assistance can be of great help, and it could change the dynamics. I'm going to save this question for Ed tomorrow night. He will know the answer to this better than I do. But I bet you could make a 2 to 3% change with that. I know enthusiasm can give you like even more than that. And that's where Trump has got a tremendous advantage with the. I mean, I think the Democrats have stopped it now. They're making fun of the rallies for a while. They were saying, "Oh, these rallies are worn out. They're wearing out." Da, 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 da. Like hell, they are. Those rallies are dynamite. Those rallies, I told him, a long time ago, were his secret weapon that nobody else has. And then he was deprived of that in 2016 and 2020 because of COVID. But those rallies ignite significant numbers of people who are at those rallies to do what I'm talking about. And then they have an effect to the people who watch them on television. Not all, but you don't need all. If you had all, you'd win, like Ronald Reagan won. But they're extraordinarily helpful. Harris has no such ability to do that. I really see Harris, and there are Democrats who really worry about this, as somebody who, and there are candidates like this who lose votes the more they appear. The more you hear, like today, with the absurd thing about Trump being like Adolf Hitler. I mean, is this woman crazy? She's talking about a man who was shot at twice and almost killed. At the very beginning, there was criticism that it was induced by people calling him Hitler. In fact, the second shooter has references to that in the notes that we've seen.
It is deeply troubling and incredibly dangerous that Donald Trump
to call a dog whistle to kill Trump. I mean, she's pretty desperate. Let's listen.
It is deeply troubling and incredibly dangerous that Donald Trump would invoke Adolf Hitler, the man who is responsible for the deaths of 6 million Jews and hundreds of thousands of Americans. It is deeply troubling.
Someone invoking Adolf Hitler.
Literally. Thank you, Mayor.
And why is she bringing up killing 6 million Jews?
It's
increase the anger. And are there people who don't have the capacity to analyze that correctly? Look, the media is not going to fact check her. God forbid. I mean, we saw that in the debates. We had two examples of that with her and him, and with Vance and Tampon Tim. And they, number one, fact checked both Trump and Vance falsely. And they failed to fact check her and Tampon Tim, who did a significant amount of lying. So nobody's going to correct this except for the people who listen to my show, or I was on today with Sebastian Gorka. He did a very good job of blowing this up really, really well. But this is in all seriousness, as his friend, and as a person who is, I would say, an expert on presidential security, having handled the Hinckley case and done security for Trump, for Clinton and Bush. It's maybe one of the most irresponsible things I've heard a presidential candidate say, particularly given I mean, it would have been irresponsible if there had been no assassination attempts. But the second guy did an assassination attempt. And if you look at what he had written in advance, some of it was this Hitler stuff that motivated him. Is she too stupid to know it, or the people who wrote it for her? I mean, that just didn't come out of her little pea brain. She everything else, she read that. Somebody wrote that on purpose. There was enough time to think, should we really be saying that at a time in which they're trying to kill Donald Trump? And the response easily at least has gone, who gives a damn? And they're at the point where they know they can't beat him. I don't know that they can't beat him because I'm very nervous. But I'll tell you this, if this were any other campaign at any other time, going back before my experience and the way they stole 2020, I would say we're at about 95-degree confidence that we're going to win. And that's why I want to talk to Rollins tomorrow night. And that's going to be a big one. Not going to be playing around. It's going to be a big one. And we're getting a lot of help from them. It's not just his great campaigning. And his campaigning is getting better. But I mean, they are folding and panicking, which is why they may have played this assassination button. I mean, the other jerk the night before says that Trump should go to jail, and then they want to say that Trump's going to take away that Trump is going to take away democracy. They even go so far as to say Trump's going to jail his opponents. I think this comes from the fact that they get no media scrutiny. Should they be afraid to say that because they've done that? They've jailed their opponents. What the hell was the jailing of my friend Steve Bannon or my friend Peter Navarro? What the hell are your vindictive cases against me all about? Or the Biden partner and the guy who got, who represented Burisma behind those two women who were trying to collect $145 million in a case presided over by the judge who didn't think the January 6 people got enough time. I mean, this judge must be bloodthirsty. I mean, leg irons for Peter Navarro. FBI agents dressed up as stormtroopers for Roger Stone leaked to CNN so they could put it on national television to scare the hell out of other Republicans who might support Trump. Do you know how many lawyers I've talked to that wouldn't represent either Trump or Trump affiliated people? I mean, there are a lot of people in these indictments. I mean, this is completely absurd. I mean, both indictments in Arizona and Nevada, I don't even know half the people. But I've tried to help them get lawyers, and it hasn't been easy because the lawyers are afraid. So that tells me what they're saying has an impact. That's why they do it. That's why they put out articles like the ones about, going after my Joe DiMaggio jersey and going after my car and going after this and going after that. This isn't a happenstance. It's being orchestrated by people being paid a lot of money. These women don't have the money to pay that. Or maybe they do now. They've already extorted one multi-million-dollar payment out of somebody. So, I mean, they're doing better than the Trump people they're harassing, right? So we're going to take a short break, and then we'll do a little soccer time so we catch up on the things that you haven't heard and give you a little preview for the rest of the week as we get so close to one of the most important days in American history.
Cancel culture is the new normal. Online freedom as we know it has ended. Digital stockade. All activity is monitored, stored, and predictively analyzed by a technological cartel. We're being converted into a digital resource, a digital currency to be farmed for metadata and loaded into a computerized combine, blockchained to a social engineering operating system. However, it doesn't have to be this way. Be part of a new technological revolution. Right now, 1,000 test pilots have launched themselves into a new digital frontier, a private network outside of big tech control. New technology with state-of-the-art digital engagement and never-done-before security and privacy features that are now operational. With Quick's digital engagement, entertainment, communication, and commercial exchange will never be the same. We are QUX. Quicks. Advanced pre-release sales are limited to 3,000. Order now by visiting quicks.tv. Get
Edition, boy. I'll tell you, both from the point of view of security, which you got to think about. The Chinese are all over us. That's a heck of a good addition. Plus, it'll really help you. I remember in New York, I couldn't get Newsmax without it because Newsmax had been taken off my left-wing communist provider there. So I was able to get Newsmax. Then I think that Newsmax got on, but I still couldn't get America's OAN, right? Isn't that OAN? Isn't that the right call letters for it? America's News?
One America News.
Yeah, right. One America's News. So there isn't we're down to look, we can count on Fox about half the time, but then they can go off on us too. And you never know for sure if they're going off on you. If you don't know the motivations that are getting inserted into the situations. And all of them have been very, very unreliable. I mean, to hear some of them lie about 2020 and to protect their backsides was really very, very disappointing. But in any event, they've been back and forth on Trump. Not all of them. There are a couple that have been steadfast on Trump, but a lot of them have been back and forth. And now they're all scurrying up, and doing stuff. And so you don't know what to trust or what not to trust. I would say it was very satisfying to see Brett Baer do such a good job on cackling Kamala, because Brett has never been. I mean, Brett did not change materially. Brett has always been a sort of down the middle, look at two sides, with a conservative. He'd probably get angry if I say this, but kind of a conservative bias. But he's not included in that level of criticism. There are some others that really deserve it because they should have had more courage than they had. But in any event, we can count on Fox. I'd say even a little more than half the time. We certainly can count on Newsmax, and we can count on One America's News, and then we can count on all of the different podcasts. I mean, now Rogan, but also I was on with Sebastian Gorka today, or I mean, I don't want to mention one without mentioning the other, but you know who they are, Charlie Kirk, and there are a lot of them. And it adds up to a big percentage now of how people get the news. But I want to remind you of what is maybe the most important thing you can do tonight, which is to contribute to Tunnel to Towers. Thanks to the generosity of people who do, Tunnel to Towers Foundation welcomed U.S. Army Specialist Brett Menard into a new mortgage-free home in Florida. Brett decided to enlist in the United States Army after being motivated by September 11th and his desire to be part of something that truly matters. While on a road clearance mission in Afghanistan, Brett's vehicle was blown up by an improvised explosive device. In that instance, his life changed forever. The blast left Brett a T4 paraplegic with traumatic brain injury, compartment syndrome in both arms, unable to use his legs, and of course, severe internal injuries. He even needed a total face reconstruction because his bones and teeth were shattered by the massive explosion. Despite these overwhelming challenges, Brett's spirit remained unbroken. Because of the support of friends like you, Tunnel to Towers built him a specially adapted smart home that allows catastrophically injured heroes like Brett to live to the maximum level of independence. America's heroes need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month, T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. You're never going to make a more important contribution than that. Do it right now. And you're going to feel better. So, Ted, let's do a little wrap up quickly here on these polls. I'm going to throw a few out at you. Okay. So, right now in Nevada, Trump is leading 49-47. He has, however, a commanding lead among unaligned voters, 46 to 39. And among independents, I always look at that as really, really important. And with swing voters over 50, he's at 41-27. And with men over 50, he's at 56-39. And she's at 49-47. So he's getting a much bigger percentage of the male vote than she is. If some of the gender gap, she's got the gender gap. He's losing the female vote by 2. She's losing the male vote by, oh my goodness, 49, by 15.
Whoa. So you're telling me that she's still getting?
She's getting 39% of the male vote.
I'm not going to say anything.
And she
Across the board, these numbers are too high for her. I don't understand how people can vote for her. Even if you're a Democrat,
you're wondering where that 37% of
yeah, that's
or the 49% of women, where do they come from?
a chance. You're with two.
Well, maybe after today,
Kamala.
after today, and trying to get Trump killed, they'll do away with it.
I don't get it. I don't get where these Democrats.
Also in Georgia, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, which has a 47-43% lead for Trump, shows her with a fairly narrow lead among women, and with him a much bigger lead among men. Same situation, and her approval rating is down to 29%. Her job approval rating. So she was a woefully less than a third of the country believes that she was an effective vice president. That includes Democrats.
It's the latest national polls, Mayor.
Okay.
And I wanted to show these to you. I know we don't usually look at the national ones, especially this close to
Okay, we can look at
the
it
election. But look, just today, October 23rd, the last few days, Harris, which is expected, right? She has a slight lead in the national polls.
I can't see them.
But if you look closely at the last 2 polls,
Oh, but I can't see them.
oh, you can't. You still can't. Okay. How about
Now I can see it.
Okay.
I can see that Trump is up by 2 in Forbes. Trump is up by 3 in Rasmussen. Trump is down by 2 in national
TIPP.
And The Economist, he's down by 3. So what's the average there? Where is the national average?
So the national average right now. So look, just today you got mixed bag. Trump up 2, Harris up 2. Trump up 3, Harris up 3. Yesterday, so the point here is trending towards Trump. Yesterday, the only polls had Harris up. The day before, Harris was up. A couple outliers, but for the most part, Harris has been leading. But now you're starting to see that lead disappear, and this is nationally.
Well, I mean, the only way to look at the national poll is to look at the percentage. So here's a pretty good way to do it, which I'm borrowing from a combination of several people. If Trump wins the national vote, the popular vote, then he gets anywhere from a very, very solid electoral win to a landslide. If he loses it by 1 to 2%, which is about what happened with Hillary, he gets a really solid electoral victory. If he loses it by 3, he'll get a very narrow electoral victory. And if he goes over 3, then he's in trouble. And he could still win in a real squeaker. But when you see a national poll that's better than 3, then Trump really has something to worry about. If you see a national poll that's even, Trump is winning. And if you see a national poll, even with her ahead by 1 or 2, he's winning. When it gets beyond 2, you got to worry. When he's ahead by 2 or 3, it's basically over. And the states are still the same states, really. It's the same 12 states, take it down to 6, eventually take it down to 4. And the 3 big ones in the north are Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Those are the 3 that are enormously important. Then if you go, and in some degree of doubt, if you go south, people would say, North Carolina, Georgia, North Carolina is going to be Republican. South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, that's all going to be Republican. Go out to the west, Arizona, I think, is over the top. And I think Nevada is a you want to put it on the map there? I mean, if you want to put it on the map there, we would take, if we wanted to be extra cautious, we'd take Nevada and make it up for grabs. We'd make Wisconsin, Michigan up for grabs. I wouldn't make Pennsylvania up for grabs anymore. I think it's definitely leaning Trump.
Well, that's enough right there.
So I'd say maybe there are 3 states left: Michigan, Wisconsin, and Nevada. I think a lot. I think let's put Pennsylvania in there because everybody else does, but I wouldn't.
You think we got it?
I think we do, but put it out
well,
there.
That's I mean, if these are the 4 that are up for grabs, Kamala needs to run the. Well, no, she doesn't need to run the.
She needs to win 3 out of.
She does. No. She can afford to lose Nevada. And
she can't lose anything else but Nevada.
So you think she's going to spend a lot of time here in the Midwest? Big 10 country is what I call it. That's Big 10.
Put it this way: she has to win Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And hold on to
man, the big blue wall. 2016. Maybe that's why we haven't seen Hillary Clinton on the campaign trail. She sidelined Hillary.
Well, she's going up there. There was a big complaint. There's a big complaint today that she's not going up there. I mean, I don't want to make too much of it because I don't want her to get her up there. But let's face it. I mean,
didn't she camp out? Was that her or Timmy Walls who camped out in Pennsylvania for like a week, for like 2 weeks before the debate?
He better learn how to shoot a gun before he goes back to Pennsylvania.
That's a good point too.
That's a big hunting stab. And that guy is one of the biggest bullshit artists. Holy God.
That was tough to watch. Let's see if we got that on. That's almost as bad as
So they still haven't solved the issue of who leaked the Israeli information. It really shouldn't be too hard since they've got a well-recognized, identified Iranian spy ring right in the middle of the Biden-Harris administration. Jesus, I could give them the people who did it if they could just come and interview me. I mean, it's outrageous again that we've got an Iranian spy ring right in the middle of the administration. And Israel gives us enormously sensitive documents, and we put them out publicly. or our spies do, who are been paid by the federal government. One of them was spying for Iran a decade ago, and we gave him a security clearance. We gave her a security clearance. So you list of 10, huh? Before you come back and see me tomorrow night at 7 on the Rudy Giuliani show, on Frank's Speech Network, and on X. You can get it on X also. You make your calls, okay? And then we will have a fascinating discussion tomorrow night, and with Mr. Rollins. And then we'll bring you all the things like we didn't know last time we checked off that she was going to encourage murdering Trump. Right? It's true. I can't believe it. I always ask you at the end to pray. And, I always ask you to pray for the people of Ukraine. And I ask you to pray for the people of Israel because they're at war. I'm going to ask you to pray for the people of Iran. I don't think you have any idea how many of them oppose the Ayatollah and are subjugated and killed. That he stays alive. I don't think there's any doubt that he's in grave jeopardy. And I don't think there's any doubt, whatever implication you want to take from it, that they've tried everything and nothing's worked. And that they are highly immoral people. And if you really pay attention, they're evil. It's being investigated by an organization that tried to frame him. The FBI. I mean, it's like, well, because we are able to talk to you about this, because we are able to continue to maintain our ability to say what we want and say it the way we want it, despite the fact that they're trying to destroy us, including me personally, that makes it the greatest country on earth. And when we are able to reestablish it again, and reestablish the norms of this country that have been attacked by atheistic communism. Oh my goodness, we can soar to the heights. Once you overcome something like this, the strength that you feel, we only can do it with God's help. So, dear God, please, please look down on your servants here who really just want to help the world. So, God bless America. Bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776. One of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to